You keep replaying the good moments, convinced that's what you lost. But if you're honest, you're not searching for her. You're searching for that rare, intoxicating feeling of being the one person in the world who mattered most. You don't miss her. You miss being someone's priority. The ache you feel has a name, but it isn't heartbreak. Not in the way you've been told. It's the echo of a much deeper human wound. The need to belong, to be seen, to finally be chosen without having to audition for the part. You entered into an unspoken contract, a silent agreement you drafted in your own heart, believing that if you made her the absolute center of your universe, she would, in turn, validate your very existence. But that isn't true belonging. It is a transaction, a fragile negotiation for worth. You were conditioned, perhaps from a young age, to believe that your value was something to be earned through relentless performance, through a tireless and thankless giving. You learned to be the nice guy, the reliable one, the man who would drop everything for a single text because you mistook that role for an identity. You thought being prioritized was the prize for your good behavior, the trophy for your self-neglect. Her attention was the proof, the tangible evidence that your strategy was working, that you were finally worthy. And now that the prize has been taken away, you feel your entire identity has been erased along with it. The emptiness you're sitting with now isn't just the space she left behind. It's the terrifying, deafening silence that rushes in when the performance is finally over. It's the chilling moment you look out into the audience and realize there was no one left watching. Not even yourself. You weren't just loving her. You were using her attention to prove to yourself that you were alive. You constructed an entire kingdom around her, meticulously, piece by piece, without ever realizing you were building your own cage. Her moods became the weather, one day a clear sky, the next a brewing storm you felt responsible for calming. Her approval became the law of the land, a silent constitution you dedicated yourself to upholding. And her attention was the sun. It was the only light source in a realm you willingly kept dark, and you oriented your entire being around its warmth, believing it was the only thing that could make you grow. You told yourself this was love. You called it devotion, but it was never a partnership of equals. In this kingdom, you were not her king. You were her most loyal subject, and your purpose was defined entirely by your service to the throne. Her gaze was your territory, her validation your crown. Now that she has abdicated, you wander the halls of your own mind like a deposed ruler, stateless and invisible, feeling your worthlessness in the profound silence she left behind. The throne is empty now, cold to the touch. But the devastating realization that is slowly dawning in the quiet is that it was never your seat to begin with. You were like a court musician, one who had dedicated his life to a single patron, the queen. You learned the melodies she loved. You practiced until your fingers bled, and you came to believe the sound of her applause was the only measure of your talent. You felt alive only when she was listening. Her nod of approval was more nourishing than food, more vital than air. And you mistook that feeling, that fleeting, conditional validation, for your own inherent value. You thought the music was for her. Now the grand hall is silent. The tapestries are drawn. And in that suffocating emptiness, you have come to believe that the music itself has died. You sit with your instrument in your lap, convinced of its uselessness, forgetting that your hands still know the notes, that the song existed long before she ever entered the room. The tragedy isn't that the queen has gone. It's that in your desperate quest for her applause, you completely forgot how to play for yourself. If you are honest with yourself, truly honest, in the dead of night when the loneliness is a physical weight on your chest, what is it you truly crave? Sit with the feeling for a moment. Is it the memory of her laugh? The specific way she looked at you across a table? Or is it something else? Is it the memory of your phone lighting up on the nightstand, her name on the screen, a silent signal that you were, once again, needed? That you had a purpose? You weren't in a relationship with a person. You were in a relationship with a role and identity she conferred upon you. You were the fixer, the calm in her storm, the steady hand she reached for when her own world felt like it was spinning out of control. Her problems became your projects. Her chaos gave your life a sense of order. Her reliance on you was a steady, intoxicating drip of validation, a drug that made you feel powerful, essential, real. This is the hidden mechanism of your addiction. The emptiness you feel now isn't the clean ache of loss. It is the jagged, frantic pain of withdrawal. Your nervous system is screaming for a dose of importance that no longer comes. It's a phantom itch for a text that will never be sent. You check your phone not for her, but for a sign that you still matter. You are like a phone that was built to only hold a charge when it's plugged into one specific outlet. For years, you drew your power from her. The constant connection, the flow of her needs into you, kept you lit up, functional, alive. The moment she unplugged you, you went dark. You're not staring at the empty wall socket, missing the outlet itself. You are missing the feeling of the current running through you, the warmth of being fully charged, the simple, undeniable proof that you were switched on. The silence you are living in now is so unbearable because you aren't just haunted by the memory of her. You are haunted by the ghost of the man you were when she needed you. And so your mind has become a crime scene. In the quiet hours, you return to it again and again, walking the perimeter, searching for clues. You are the sole detective on a case with only one victim, your own sense of importance. This isn't healing. It's rumination. You endlessly sift through the archives of your shared past, but you are not looking for the truth of what went wrong. You are looking for proof that you mattered. You scroll back months, years, through old conversations, your thumb pausing on a specific phrase she used, an old promise, a casual term of endearment. You zoom in on old photographs, studying the look in her eyes, trying to find definitive evidence of your central role in her life. This is a desperate act of emotional archaeology, digging through ruins for any artifact you can find from a time when you felt seen, a time when you felt essential. Each memory you unearth is a relic you polish and hold up to the light, trying to convince yourself it's made of solid gold. You are treating your own history like a selective editor, cutting out the scenes that don't fit the narrative you so desperately need to believe. It is like you have a book that tells the entire story of your time together, but you only allow yourself to reread a single chapter over and over again. It's the chapter where the protagonist, you, is celebrated. The chapter where he is the hero, the indispensable one, the man at the center of her world. You ignore the rest of the story. You refuse to turn the page because you know what the later chapters contain. The slow, painful scenes of his fading relevance, the moments of distance, the final pages where he is quietly written out of the story altogether. You cannot bear the ending, and so you remain stuck in that one perfect chapter, the only place left in the universe that confirms you were once the hero. You have locked yourself inside this single moment of glory because you are terrified that if you read the whole story, you will discover you were never the main character at all. Here we arrive at the most difficult truth, the one your ego has built walls to protect you from, the one that might feel like a betrayal to even consider. You constructed your identity on the noble foundation of being the giver. You were the rock, the steady hand, the one who had it all together, who could absorb her chaos and offer only calm in return. You told yourself, and you told her, that you were giving your support, your strength, your love, unconditionally. But if you can be brave enough to look closer, to peer into the hidden mechanics of your own heart, you will find a painful contradiction. You were not just giving, you were also taking. You didn't just tolerate her problems. On some deep, unconscious level, you needed them. You needed her to be a little lost so you could have the purpose of finding her. You needed her to be a little broken so that your presence could feel like the glue holding her life together. Your caretaking was never a pure gift. It was a strategy, a quiet, intricate, and desperate strategy to secure your role as her priority, to make yourself so fundamentally essential to her functioning that the thought of leaving you would seem impossible. You acted like a lighthouse, standing tall and immovable on the shore, believing your sole purpose was to cast a steady beam of light to guide her ship safely through the storm. It is a beautiful, heroic image, but the devastating truth is that you were not the lighthouse. You were another ship, just as lost in the same darkness, navigating by the light you saw reflecting off her. You used her struggles to convince yourself that you had a purpose, a harbor, a reason to exist. You didn't love her in spite of her broken pieces. You loved her because of them. They were the currency you used to purchase your own importance in her world, and without them, you now feel bankrupt. This is why the pain you feel is so strange, so difficult to explain to others, and even to yourself. You are using the language of heartbreak, but it doesn't quite fit. It's because what you are experiencing is not a standard emotional wound. It is an identity amputation. A crucial part of who you thought you were has been severed, and you are now living with the phantom pain. You feel the ache for something that is no longer there, a persistent throb in a place that now lies empty. You are grieving, yes, the grief is sharp, real, and undeniable, but you have misdiagnosed its source. You are not grieving the person who left. You are grieving the purpose she took with her. You are grieving the loss of a self-defining function that organized your entire existence. The roles of the priority, the savior, the chosen one, these were limbs of your ego, and now that they are gone, you feel unbalanced, misshapen, and incomplete. It is like you are a key, a solid, well-made key, forged for one specific and very important lock. For years, your entire existence was defined by that relationship. You knew your shape, your grooves, your purpose. Turning the lock was your reason for being. But now the lock is gone. The door has been replaced. And you, the key, are left perfectly intact but utterly, profoundly useless. You still have the same weight in your pocket, the same solid feel in your hand. But without the one door you were designed to open, you have no function. The pain comes in the moments you forget. You reach into your pocket, your fingers brushing against the familiar cold metal, and for a split second, your muscle memory takes over. You feel for the purpose that is no longer there, only to be hit with the fresh, sickening realization that it has none. The key itself is not broken. It is not flawed. It is simply a key without a lock, and you are now haunted by the memory of the one and only door it used to open. Why did it matter so much? Why did being that key, turning that one lock, feel less like a choice and more like a reason to breathe? This desperate, all-consuming need to be someone's number one, to be their absolute priority, does not come from a place of romantic passion. It comes from a much older, quieter, and deeper place. We must trace this desperation back to its root, to an original wound that has been silently bleeding for years. It comes from a time and a place, perhaps a childhood home, where your emotional needs were an inconvenience. A place where your feelings were treated as background noise, and where attention was a scarce resource you had to compete for or earn through perfect behavior. You learned, without anyone ever saying the words, that love was conditional and that being seen was not a given, but a prize. No one ever taught you how to be loved, only how to perform for it. This is why, for you, being a priority doesn't feel like a simple preference. It feels like oxygen. It's a deferred childhood hope, the quiet, desperate plea of a younger version of yourself who learned that being noticed by a caregiver was the same thing as survival. It's an attempt to finally win a battle you lost long ago. Think of a small child who only receives true, focused, gentle attention when he is sick. When he is healthy and quiet, he is overlooked. But when he has a fever, he is held. When he is hurt, he is comforted. That child does not learn to crave wellness and peace. He learns, on a primal level, to crave the crisis that brings the comfort. He learns that his pain is the only reliable way to summon love. And so her need for you, her reliance, her drama, it all felt so familiar, so necessary. Felt like that comfort. It was a perfect echo of the only dynamic you ever knew that guaranteed you would not be invisible. And so you lived your life according to a hidden set of rules, a grand and secret bargain you made with the universe. It went something like this: if I am good, if I am selfless, if I sacrifice my own needs and make her my absolute priority, the world will have no choice but to be fair. She will see my value, she will recognize my sacrifice, and she will make me her priority in return. You treated this bargain not as a hope, but as a law of emotional physics. You believed goodness was a currency and that your self-neglect was a sound investment that would one day pay dividends in the form of unwavering love and loyalty. You did everything right according to the terms of this contract. You were the nice guy. You were dependable. You were constant. Her departure is so profoundly devastating because it is not just the loss of a person. It is the complete and total collapse of your entire belief system. It is the universe looking you in the eye and telling you that the bargain is, and always was, a myth. This feeling of betrayal runs deeper than romance. It feels cosmic. It feels like you followed the rules of the game with perfect discipline, only to be told at the very end that your rulebook was a counterfeit. Her leaving proves that your entire strategy for securing love was built on a false premise. You spent your life meticulously building a house of cards, each card a sacrifice, an act of service, a swallowed feeling, on what you believed was solid ground. You were so careful, so precise, so certain of its foundation. Her walking away wasn't the earthquake that toppled your creation. The earthquake was the horrifying, sickening realization that you had built it all on a fault line. The ground was never stable. The rules were never real. The profound pain you feel is the vertigo of discovering that the fundamental map you used to navigate your emotional world was a fiction all along. And so you tell yourself that the worst part is the not knowing. You are haunted by the ambiguity, the ghosting, the slow fade, the way the conversation just stopped. You frame her departure as a confusing mystery, a puzzle you need to solve. If you could just find the right clue, the missing piece of information, you could finally understand the reason why. You replay the last conversations, searching for a hidden meaning in her words, a sign you might have missed. But the truth, the one that sits cold and heavy in your gut, is that there is no puzzle. Her silence was not a question for you to answer. It was the answer itself. It was the final, brutal, unspoken verdict on the one question you were always too terrified to ask out loud. Am I essential to you? The lack of a dramatic fight, the absence of a tearful goodbye, the stunning ease with which she let you go, that was her response. The response was no. You have been standing in front of a closed door, frantically trying to figure out the combination to a lock that was never there. You twist imaginary dials, you test numbers in your head, you convince yourself that it is a complex riddle designed to be solved. You do this because the act of solving feels purposeful. It gives you a role, keeps you engaged in the story, but you are not looking at a locked door. You are looking at a wall. There is no secret combination. There is no hidden key. The desperate energy you expend trying to decipher the message is a beautiful and tragic strategy to avoid facing the message itself, which was delivered in its simplest, most painful form: silence. The silence was not a pause. It was a statement. It was a final verdict. And accepting that it wasn't a complex puzzle but a simple, clear statement is the only way to stop staring at the wall and finally turn around. So you finally turn from the wall. You stop searching for answers where there are none, and you are left in the quiet of your own presence. And here, in this silence, you come face to face with the final and most difficult turn of the knife, the insight that changes everything. All of the energy you poured into becoming her priority, every ounce of focus and every moment of concern, was energy you diverted from becoming your own. Every time you dropped what you were doing to answer her text, you were sending a message to yourself that your time was less valuable than hers. Every time you swallowed your own feelings to accommodate hers, you were teaching yourself that your emotional world didn't matter. You didn't just allow her to deprioritize you. You were the one who showed her how. You were the first person to abandon the post. This is why the emptiness feels so vast, so terrifying. Her departure did not create this void inside you. It only stripped away the decorations that were hiding it. For years, you used her needs, her drama, and her validation as wallpaper to cover up the hollow spaces in your own sense of self. Now that she is gone, the wallpaper has been torn away, and you are left standing in the bare, unfinished room of your own soul. The most profound abandonment in this story was not when she walked away from you. It was when you walked away from yourself long ago in favor of tending to her. You were the dedicated curator of a beautiful, ornate museum built entirely in her honor. You spent all your time and energy polishing her exhibits, writing the placards for her accomplishments, and ensuring the lighting always hit her collection just right. Now she has packed up her art and left, and you are standing alone, in the center of a vast, empty building, confronted with the chilling realization that you never acquired a single piece of your own. This journey into your pain does not have to end here, in the silence of this empty museum. This emptiness, as terrifying as it feels, is also a beginning. It is the first time you have been left alone with the bare walls of your own being, without the distraction of someone else's art to cure it. The goal was never to find another person to make you their priority. That was the addiction, the old pattern repeating its sad, familiar song. The true path forward begins with the quiet decision to cultivate a sense of belonging within yourself, to learn, perhaps for the first time, how to be present in your own life, for your own sake. It is a slow turning from seeking external priority to generating internal presence. This is the quiet graduation from the nice guy's transactional world, the final letting go of the belief that your worth is something that must be validated by another. The intense pain you feel right now, this profound sense of being erased, is the very force that can push you toward this radical act of self-reclamation. It is the catalyst, the necessary pressure that can finally move you to become the one thing you never were, your own anchor. It is the beginning of a journey not to find love, but to become a person capable of receiving it without needing it to be your proof of existence. The ultimate healing you will find is not in the glorious moment of being chosen by someone else. It is in the quiet, resolute, and unwavering act of finally choosing yourself. Not because you are suddenly enough, or because you have fixed your broken parts, but simply because you exist. And that is the only validation that was ever real. We have put together a short guide to help you put a name to these invisible wounds. It is not a map out, but a map in. It is designed to help you take the first breath after the fall. It's free, it is honest, and it will not promise to fix you. You can find the link in the description below. If you've been waiting to be written into someone else's story, maybe this is your cue to pick up the pen. But the space where that begins isn't here. It starts somewhere quieter, somewhere built just for you.